Bienvenidos to Season 3 of Humans in Accounting podcast. In a world full of AI, automation, and endless workflows, we pause for a moment to focus on the real humans behind the numbers. Founders, leaders, humans share their journey, what drives them, and the moments that shape their path. Because behind every balance sheet, there's always a story worth telling. Humans in Accounting is brought to you by South Offices. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Humans in Accounting, where leaders, humans, and people share their story behind their spreadsheets. As you know, I'm Alex Roman, and this podcast is brought to you by South Offices, connecting accounting talent as cross-border. Today, I have the pleasure to have Monica Siciliano here, partner and business advisor at Novo HR Consulting and Zinman and Company. Monica, welcome to Humans in Accounting. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well. Thank you for having me, Alex.
I'm happy that we're doing this episode. We can tell here watching people that the people watching in the future. We recently recorded actually another podcast on your podcast, where you interviewed me, and now it's my time just to know a little bit about your story and everything. The truth is that we've been working and we've been talking now for, I don't know, over a year, I guess, but we never met physically. We never met in person. I'm sure that we can have the opportunity in the future. Monica, let's tell us a little bit about your background. I know you have. I want to know you a little bit better and tell, so that you can share with the audience. Tell me your path, how you ended up, here as a partner in an accounting firm and this chart company that you have.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a partner at Novo HR Consulting and Business Advisory, which is a firm based out of Southampton, Pennsylvania, here in the United States. We're between the Philadelphia metro area and New York here on the East Coast. I am also a partner at Zinman and Company, which is a public accounting firm. I am not an accountant myself. My path has been targeted toward business advisory services. So how I got involved with these organizations is my partner, whose name is Mark Zinman. That's the podcast that you are on the Mark with Mark Zinman. He was the managing partner, founding, as you can imagine, and managing partner of Zinman and Company. And I had known him because he had provided accounting services to the company I had worked for before. As he and I started working more closely together, it was very evident to me in my career journey that oftentimes a company's biggest expense is payroll, right? It is paying their workforce. And so as I was lucky enough to get exposure into really every department within an organization, I understood that maximizing employee output while making sure that you're cultivating those relationships and that your employees are happy and engaged and understand their contribution to the company's success and are appropriately rewarded for that engagement was really a good contributor toward business efficiency and effectiveness. So that's when I had, I'll say, a mid career change to focus upon human resources consulting. Then as we started to provide services to our clients, I found that my services were straying outside of business consulting proper and more into the business advisory space. So I was able to become a partner at Zinman and Company. As you look at the Venn diagram of human capital management and accounting services and business advisory services, there is overlap. So we were able to service our clients, taking a more holistic approach, but still being a subject matter expertise in the service line that we were representing. So my journey, that's how my career has taken me. I currently have an MBA. I'm currently a doctoral student. I very much hope to defend my dissertation in Q1 of next year, fingers crossed. And that is a doctorate in business administration. So my hope My proposition is that between my formal education and my many years of, I always joke that's how I got my gray hair, my many years of business experience, that and things that I have gone through, including, growing a company organically, growing a company that perhaps is VC funded or perhaps is bootstrapped, they're self-funded, and then acquiring a company and exiting a company. Having experienced these myself, it is my hope that I can provide expert level services to my clients.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And when did you become a partner here at? When was this?
Yep. So we founded, so De Novo HR Consulting is an example of an entity that was bootstrapped, that we were self funded.
Okay.
We started that entity, I want to say, in 2015, though I had known my partner, Mark Zinman, since 1992. And then I was able to become a partner at the accounting firm, I want to say about 3.5, maybe 4 years ago.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. And okay. And with the Novo HR Consulting, do you work with a specific industry? You work with accounting firms? You work with? You tell me.
Yeah. So we are industry agnostic. We do
Oh,
work
okay.
with companies in all industries. We find that a lot of services that we provide are transferable into different industries and spaces. Because we are located on the East Coast, you might think that there was a customer concentration in that, DC to Boston Metroplex area. And there is a little bit, but we do service clients throughout the United States. And we are industry agnostic. We do tend to get referrals from our clients, and they might refer us to their colleagues if they're in some type of professional group. So we tend to build up by accident these customer concentrations in certain industries, such as medical or dental fields, especially when there's a lot of consolidation in the field, then our services are very helpful at that time. But no, we are definitely industry agnostic. Uh, we provide services ranging from human resources administration to workforce development to strategy, business strategy and execution, recruitment services. And that's how we came to know you. What our clients do have in common is our clients are privately held. At this time, we're not really working with publicly traded entities in the United States.
Okay. And if there's a public entity that wants to work with you and reach out and say, "Hey, Monica, can you help me out?" You just say, "Hey, no, we don't work. This is," or you do an exception.
So we can and we have in the human resources
Okay.
space, not really so much in the accounting space thus far. The reason for that is because the larger the enterprise, the more likely that they will have a very robust in-house HR team. And so our services as a consultant is brought in normally. For example, if someone is going for a government contract and they're going to have an I-9 audit, they might bring us in to do like a pre-audit to make sure everything's wrapped up and everybody's in compliance. So we sometimes will provide those type of services, but we find that as consultants, a smaller enterprise might not have the budget for robust in-house human resources services.
Right.
And so their
Right.
first hire might be what there are different levels in human resources and an introductory level. The way to get your foot in the door in this industry is as a generalist, right? So some we can provide some complementary services so that they're getting truly executive level support to collaborate with perhaps an in-house generalist. Our value proposition to our clients is that by working with us, they benefit from everybody's combined experience and knowledge base. And so we can collaborate and make a recommendation to a client that's not just a focus group of one, but rather we can collaborate internally, bump ideas off of each other, make sure we agree that that's the best path forward, and then present that to a client. That's normally not something that a smaller privately held company would have the resources for full-time support. So you might think of us as like a fractional HR team.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. And let me ask you. Now let's jump into Sinman and company. In that in the firm, do you work with a specific type of industry, or as well you're agnostic and you work with different type of clients?
So it's the same, right? So great question. We
Right.
also are industry agnostic with the accounting firm. again, because clients tend to refer people within their network or their professional organizations to us, we've kind of built up these accidental customer concentration in certain industries. But yes, we are certainly providing accounting services to small business and mid-sized business owners throughout the United States on the accounting side as well.
Perfect. I am having. I'm gonna ask you a question that I already know the answer because I am having now this mate.
Yes,
I'll tell the people from the future watching this episode and Spotify or in YouTube or in Apple Podcast that yeah, just I think today on the 25th it was released on your podcast an interview where I was the guest the other way around where we talked a little bit about South offices and you surprised me. I'll tell the audience you surprised me because at the beginning of the episode I don't know how or why you took a mate and and you had it. Was that the first and last time? Have you tried it again since the last few weeks?
absolutely have. And I remember that you had said, so the reason that the why is because you and I were chit chatting one day on Teams. We had a video conference and I asked you what that was. And you shared a little bit about that with me. And I understand that's an important part of your culture. And I definitely wanted to learn more. So you'd be very proud of me. I did some of my little independent research and, ordered all my supplies and had my first sip there with you during the podcast. And that was certainly fun. And I very much enjoyed it and have absolutely you know, enjoyed more of it and, thereafter. That was not my one and only time. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, here in Argentina, which by the way, I'm having this next few episodes. I'm having my Argentinian shirt. I usually have a different one, but since we're in the World Cup, for us, it's also really important the World Cup because we are all fans of soccer or football. I'm wearing this jersey just to support Argentina from here. The mate, yes, it's something that it's really social actually. Here, I usually work by myself here in my office, and I have it by myself. But if not, if you go have a meeting with friends or family, this is something that usually one mate is shared by people. We shared from the same straw, and it's cultural. That with the COVID, that changed for a few months, but then we all forgot, and now we are sharing mates again. Let me ask you now that I've changed subjects, and I ask a little bit about the mate here at Humans in Accounting. Well, you know me already. For me, one of the important things in life is just to eat good food. And I'm gonna ask you the question that I am asking every single guest here at Humans in Accounting, which is the following one. Monica, what's your favorite food?
Yeah. So you know what? So I love cooking. Right. As you can tell by my last name, of Italian heritage and very much enjoy cooking. I don't tend to eat Italian out because I don't like, so you've had Italian food? Yeah.
Of course, I think there's no one in the world who never had Italian food. Yeah.
So any type of pasta, my mom used to call macaroni. Didn't matter what it was. Spaghetti, lasagna, it was macaroni. And then what and if you have I'm going to not call it by name, if you have a red sauce on that, what do you call that? Do you call that sauce or something else?
Depending on which sauce is it, because there are like plenty of different red sauce. It could be if it has meat, bolognese. If it's here in Spanish, we called one fileto, pomodoro, depending on the sauce. But here we have in Argentina like a huge Italian influence, like yeah, most of Argentinians that our grandparents or great grandparents they escaped from the war and they came either from Italy or Spain. So there's a huge influence of Italy. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people in the United States would call just a red, like not getting to whether it's like a ragu with like a meat in it, but just red sauce is a lot of people in the United States will refer to that as sauce, spaghetti sauce, if you will, right? So we call that here in my household, we call that gravy, right? Other people would consider gravy like a brown gravy. But we call the red sauce on a pasta or a macaroni dish, which everything is macaroni. We call it we call it gravy. So you might have pasta with
Gravy.
gravy, right? So, and I, like to eat as healthy of I try to live as healthy of a lifestyle as I can. Any type of plant-based diet that I definitely want to steer in that direction as much as I possibly can. That stated, I will say my favorite, I want to say it's called, is it veal piccata? Is that what it is? It's like, but I don't eat veal, so I'll have like a chicken piccata with I think that's what it called, with the white wine sauce and the capers with a nice angel hair on the side. That's my favorite. What's yours?
Okay, perfect. Mine it's asado. The asado, it's again. Um, Now that I'm wearing this Argentinian jersey, it feels that everything that I'm saying, it's because I'm Argentinian. Maybe it is asado. It's the Argentinian barbecue that we have here, and it's 50%. I'm answering that question like 50% because of the taste of the asado. Basically, we have a grill, we put the meat there, different type of cuts, um, and with the salad, and it's really tasty and it's really good. But the other 50%, it's more because of the experience. Because we never have an asado by ourselves. We usually have it with family and friends. Here, most of all our Argentinians, we get together like Sundays with our family and friends, and it's not a 1 hour. We get together for 5 hours, and all that experience we share maybe something to drink, and we share anecdotes, and it's just an excuse basically just to be with someone that you love. So for those reasons, yeah, asado, it's my favorite food. But again, the meat itself, it's really good. Here we are known by because we have really good meat. Okay, and that's yours. Perfect.
Even though I try
Sorry.
to eat a plant-based diet, I can't turn that down.
No, no, that's perfect. Okay, let's go back. I just want to ask you about through, yeah, by being partner here at Zinman and Company and the Novo HR Consulting. At the beginning of your career, what were, I want to ask you about challenges, challenges that you faced, that you overcame. What are the one or two things that comes to mind when I ask you this question?
Yeah, yeah. So I've talked about this with a variety of different people before, especially when I'm providing services to a client that might have their workforce may be skewed toward a younger generational cohort. I try to help provide some guidance and share a little bit about my journey, which is not going to be their journey. Certainly times have changed, but one of the things that was meaningful to me in my career development is when I was first starting out in business. I was very young, and we've talked about this before. I'm 5'2". I'm a little person, and so I don't necessarily, I'm not making a big presence when I enter the room. So when I was young and female and short, I did feel like, so back in the day, this was even, I started the workforce before people were even using Skype for business, let alone before like Zoom and Teams. And so a lot of communication was over the phone. There was literally dial up internet back in the day, right? So
Right.
when I would communicate with a client and I would speak with them over the phone, I developed very strong professional relationships. I felt that there was mutual respect and mutual, there was credibility. And then when I would meet my clients in person, and again, this was ago and things have changed for the better because I was both short in stature and I was young, which I think was the biggest factor. And because I was female, I felt that I was no longer considered a valuable resource. What I had to offer was not good enough. And the story that I tell, I was at a banking convention and we were on the showroom floor, and there was a gentleman giving like a presentation, and he was right there. And there was a lot of people on the showroom floor, and he was giving a presentation. And for some reason, not targeted, but he pointed me out in the crowd, and he was talking about women in business. And there were fewer women in business back then. And he for some reason pointed me out, and he said, "You, for example, you're smarter than you think you are." And I thought, I don't think I'm not smart.
Right.
I'm comfortable with my smarticles, like, I'm good, and I just thought, "Goodness," and at the time, I was much younger, so I just kinda smiled and nodded, but that's stayed with me. That one comment has stayed with me for 30 years, and he was approaching me because I was female, because he was talking about the differences between men and women in business, and that I should have more confidence in myself, and I just felt, "You're the one that doesn't have confidence in me, I have all the confidence in the world in myself." And so as I have gotten older, I have noticed that I have more credibility because of my age and my perceived experience. So I tried to work with younger generational cohorts that have said to me, my manager will send me to a trade show and they will ask me to give a presentation, and everyone discounts me because I'm in my mid to late 20s. No one takes me seriously. What do I do? Right. And I share that story because I experienced that myself. So I think it's important, as we think about developing our workforce, that we respect that there is something to be learned from all of your colleagues, not the same thing. I believe for myself, you can be selective about whose opinion you solicit for what, or whose opinion you value about what topic. But someone has a topic that they're going to know something more than you, right? There's going to be, an area where we can learn from each other. And as far as a generational cohort is concerned, I do believe there's something that we can learn from older generational I'm Gen X, from older generational cohorts and younger generational cohorts. And I would go so far as to say truly and honestly that I have learned more from people that may report to me that are of a younger generational cohort that I have learned from an older generation. And the reason for that is because we're moving forward. We're introducing more robust tech stacks. And then, at point it was very fragmented, and now it's just, there's a little bit of a consolidation. And that's our next generation of not just management, but leadership. And so we need to understand where it's going. And that includes understanding the culture differences between different generational cohorts. So that's something that I think I experienced, where my journey and my difficulties can help the next generation so they don't have to learn the hard way. And I can provide some support in that area. And it's not just talking to them, but it's talking about other people that are in an older generational cohort and get them to understand the value, how they can help their bottom line if they take full advantage and don't discount someone just because they're younger. I'll end this little chit chat here with this one comment. I've had people on my team serving as consultants that I don't know that I would feel that if I were to send them to a client's office to provide advisory services, they would feel like they'd experienced enough in their profession that their comments would be as valuable as someone who maybe has a couple more years, a little bit more tenured, right? So it's a very interesting dynamic that we need to navigate as we work as consultants.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I had like a few things that I wanted just to say. First, because you mentioned that comment of the guy who was presenting this and told you that what were his exact words? You're smarter than what you think you are.
In front of thousands of people. It was very
But
uncomfortable, but yes, that's what he said.
I was not there, and I have no idea. But maybe I'm just thinking that it was just random. You were there, and he just pointed at you because maybe he was just trying to have a point, and maybe the person who was at your left or your right would have identified with that, and it was kind of inspiring. And just because he said that specifically to you, you took it like personally. Again, I was not there. I have no
Yeah.
idea, but maybe that would have been the case. And then just by saying what or by telling this story, let me share something that happened to me because I started. I finished high school. I started the university. I started working at a software company. My path has been always in tech. As you know, I'm kind of new to this. Well, now I've been a few years here in accounting, but I started also at a really young age. Basically, I'm Argentinian. I have this accent. I am not native, and I started going to events to the States at my early 20s just to talk with the CIOs And I was there just trying to do networking and talking about the advantages of implementing a monitoring solution for their I series and for a specific servers. And I felt the same. And I don't know how 6'1", I think. I am really tall. I don't know if it's accurate. I think I'm 6'1". I'm 1.91 meters. I think that's the exact conversion. And whenever I was in those events and I started talking with CIOs that had maybe my age of experience working in a company, I felt that some people thought like, "Hey, who is this guy? Like, he is like, he. Well, why is this guy telling me things I probably already know?" But there were a small percentage. This is all from my perspective, obviously. There were a small percentage of people who took me like, "Hey, hold on. If this guy is in his early 20s and he is talking to me, then he is something. Like he has something." So some people were paying me even more attention just because I was young. And I feel that that's something that we can all relate, whether we are tall, not that tall, if we have green hair or whatever. But yeah, it's how it's, and then as long as we start, in order just to have more experience, well, we have just to start at some point. At some point, we didn't have experience at all, and at some point, I went to my first networking event, and now I feel more comfortable when I'm surrounded by people, and I have no problem in having a conversation or even doing a podcast. So yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely noticed a shift since I've gotten older that I don't experience what I experienced before anymore. And that could be because, it's different now in the workplace, but I don't really experience it anymore, but it was very prevalent before. So for anyone that might be watching the podcast that is earlier in their career, I would encourage them to speak with their supervisor or their manager or even someone in human resources to help guide them through that process. And make sure that they feel that they are being, respected for what they can offer. And it only makes financial sense for the company themselves to support that, right? And so it's not necessarily the company inside the company where they're experiencing that, but just, out in the business environment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a solid advice. I'm curious now. I want to interview someone like really young age, just to if they can share that experience. Maybe that has changed. I think uh, I'm also I'm optimist. I feel that as human beings, we're going into always somewhere better. I don't know. I live this way because if not, it would be hard for me. I always do the same. Like if we just look at for the last, and I'm gonna exaggerate, 3,000 years. If we cut every 500 years and we see how the society was going, how we were doing as human beings, I feel that if you go like 500 years later, usually we are doing better. Yeah, I feel that.
Do you attribute some of that to social media and just the easy access to other people? And like before there was social media, before the internet, we were a bit more compartmentalized and siloed into what was considered acceptable behaviors and unacceptable, what was considered normal and what was considered less so. And now, because, here you and I are talking across the ocean, and that's really exciting. And 30 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do what we're doing now today. So we have more exposure into other diverse cultures, and then there can be perhaps a greater perspective. And so I do believe that with the change that I've experienced is not just maybe it's presenting as a function of me getting older and people maybe feeling like I've had enough experiences that there's something that I can share. But I think it's also a function of it's just 2026 now. People have more exposure. And so I think there's just, a greater understand. I won't use the word taught, but a greater understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. But still, I mean, going back to my exaggerated example of 4,000 years ago, again, if we go and there was no social media, I don't know, 1,000 years ago, there was just one king and the society was most of most of human beings were didn't have this lifestyle that we can have now. Now we again, there are advantages and disadvantages. Social media, it's kind of like a double-edged weapon. At some point, there
It
is
is.
something really good, but sometimes we only see the good things that the other ones are sharing. So that might lead us just to think, all right, maybe we're not as good as we should be. And I don't know. There are advantages and disadvantages.
Agreed. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go back on Monica just to wrap up. I always like just to ask this question, and I like to ask you specifically for this one. What's a good advice? Maybe that I'll ask you this two questions. Like first, what's a good advice that maybe someone could have given you when you started, when you were watching the presenter who talked to you specifically and told you that you were smarter than what you think, what's a good advice that you could give that Monica back then? And what's a good advice that you can give someone now in almost July 2026, who's someone who's considering just opening an accounting firm or a new business? What's a good advice that you can give them?
So lots of things. I'll just break it down to one or two. If you It has been my experience because we do work with entrepreneurs and serial entrepreneurs and people that are perhaps taking on over a family business, or they just have a new concept and they're going for it. I often joke when there is something that goes south, right, in business, and we're called in to help mitigate risk or put out a fire. I try to lighten, the emotional burden or the mental load in the moment and say, they don't tell you this is going to happen when everyone tells you to open up your own business, do they? So I would say as your workforce grows and you'll be exposed to more humans, right? Humans in accounting, more human beings. And that will add risk. Just your volume can add risk. There's more people involved. And so there is more risk. There's more opportunity, but there's also more risk. And I would say one of the things that I've learned from clients over the years is they're surprised at the amount of time that they're spending in what they would consider to be non-mission critical tasks. For example, if they have an employee that has threatened another employee, right? And that's not contributing to them building their widgets, right? And their attention, depending upon where they are in the corporate hierarchy, is diverted to putting out those fires, solving those problems. It can be frustrating for all involved because spending that time does not help grow the company. And oftentimes our clients are surprised at how much time and resources they're having to invest in something that they feel like should not be happening. Right. So just one piece of advice I would give for anybody that is starting up a new venture is be prepared for things that aren't related to tax prep for a client, bookkeeping services for a client. As a business owner, you're going to be managing employees, and all the complexities and all the regulatory compliance that comes along with that will divert your time either directly or via your collaboration with someone that you've delegated that work to. So just say, be prepared for that, because that sometimes is a surprise to business owners. Another thing and my second thing that I would add here for someone giving advice as they start their career is we want to have some sort of like balance, right? Some sort of balance between what you enjoy doing, what's
Right.
going to pay the bills, and what makes you feel fulfilled. And I'm drawing a distinction between what you enjoy doing and what gives you fulfillment. They can be two different things. So sometimes will work with employees that they have, they're sitting in front of their monitor 10 hours a day. And it's very, maybe they're working with the data all day and that's not fulfilling to them, but it could very much be fulfilling to someone else.
Right.
And they're spending so many of their waking hours. And while they may be very happy, maybe they're a full stack developer, right? Maybe they're very happy with their income, but yet they just feel defeated because they're not enjoying those 10 hours. Then we have other people that might be following their passion, but they can't pay their bills. So it would be my recommendation, for whatever it may be worth, is to find yourself some middle ground where you sufficiently enjoy what you're doing, you do get a sense of fulfillment and you are earning enough money that it is not overly burdensome to your life because you're constantly worrying, where your next meal is coming from, how you're going to make your rent or mortgage payment. And you can find that you can take a hybrid approach of finding maybe two of those three variables at work or in your personal life, and then the other one, right? So you might do something that you enjoy or find fulfilling in your personal life, and those other two variables you'll get out of your career. But we can't we have multiple I think of them as internal stakeholders. We have different parts of ourselves that need to be complete, and we would maybe not every bucket is going to be filled all the way, but if we could just do something where we're earning enough money and prepare for our future while still living for today, find appropriately fulfilling and get appropriate enjoyment out of it. Finding that balance can be very difficult here in the United States. Oftentimes, so what's happening if you do choose to get a college education? Of course, not everyone makes that choice. You have to pick normally a major. You can change your major sophomore year as an undergrad or whatever it is that you choose to do. But there's not a lot compared to some European nations of introduction into what these different things mean. I remember, it's laughable, Alex. I remember someone telling me I should go into engineering as a high school senior. And I was like, I don't really think I want to do that. And in my head, I was like, I don't even know what that is. I was too
Right.
scared to admit that I didn't know what that was. I was, I didn't even know what it was. And that's the case for, some. So I would just say, try to find balance, find different people that can introduce you, take some internships, do whatever you need to do to try to steer yourself in a direction that meets all these different variables. But don't be scared to have a change mid-career. I changed my career in my, I want to say 40s. And I'm very happy that I have done so. So just because you try to find a path doesn't mean that path is always going to serve you no matter where you are in life. So be prepared to adapt and to be agile and serve your needs in the moment and in the near and mid future. So I would say adaptability and finding a happy medium would be two things that may serve some people well. Not everybody, but some people.
Absolutely. Plus, with what you just mentioned, when you're 18, I mean, you have no idea. Like, hey, hold on, now I need just to make a decision, and that decision it's gonna be what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. That makes no sense. People change. We all change. We have different something that you thought it was a good idea. Now you want to do something else. It's not that you're deciding. Well, here we are. This is the proof. You're talking to me, telling how you shifted and you're happy, right?
Yes. And it was
So
scary.
that
It was scary. It doesn't come without fear, but I think we shouldn't just rinse and repeat because it's easy. It's easy to go to work if you don't enjoy your job. It's safer than making yourself vulnerable by interviewing for a new position. So I would say sometimes we need to take a little bit of calculated risk if the potential return would be there. And it'll be different for each person, but my advice would just be don't stay where you're unhappy because you spend the majority of your waking hours working. So I don't think we should minimize the importance of enjoying it and getting fulfillment out of it while also paying the bills.
I am 100% sure that listeners from the future now they're listening to me at this exact moment, and they're wondering how to get in touch with Monica because they really like this podcast. They really likes your thoughts, or maybe you can help them out because they're looking for a company that can help them out with HR, or maybe they're also looking for an accounting firm and they would like just to work with a Zinman and company. What's the best way to reach out to you to get in contact with you, Monica?
Thank you for asking. So, I can always be reached via email. I can read my email address is, you can see my name here on the screen, Siciliano at thecpa.com or Siciliano at denovohrc.com. That's denovohrc.com. Thank you for asking, though.
Perfect. I'll make sure when we publish this episode just to make sure just to put your contact information so that listeners from the future can reach out with you directly. Monica, I'm super happy we made this episode together. I'm also gonna link here your podcast and where I was interviewed. If people are interested in knowing a little bit more about South offices, they can go there. Monica, hope to see you soon and share some mates together. It was super
Absolutely.
nice having you in Humans in Account.
Thank you so much, Alex. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.